Hey y'all, it's Jordyn Swingle with Let's Just Be Real. In a world where we can put a spin and a filter on everything, this podcast is going to be raw and honest about all the things. And I do mean all the things. So, let's get to it. In my mind, it's just dirt and oil.
I don't feel that I've done anything crazy spectacular.
You put his first name and then he put in quotes, Bubba.
Like, yes, it's all hard, but there's so much joy.
Well, hi y'all. I know I say excited. I'm not going to say excited. I'm let's see, pumped. I'm so pumped because tonight's episode is one that I have thought about sharing with you guys since we decided to start this podcast. Not only because it is something that I walked through personally with this person, but also because I think that everyone out there can relate to this story and relate to this beautiful human being who has decided to join me, none other than Gwen Albaugh. I've been calling you Gwen Albaugh all day. I literally know your last name. I don't know why I'm saying
You've known me for at
Gwen
least 10 years.
Albaugh. Anyways.
You should have it by this time.
I should. You truly are right. But first of all, I want to say thank you that you've decided to come on my podcast because I've sent you a question list, right?
Yep.
I tell everybody this. I send you questions, but I reserve the right to say and ask anything, right?
And if we know you,
we know what we're doing too. Okay, so I always talk about this, how it's important that, I know you, but not everybody knows you. And so I want to start from the beginning. I want to start from, who you are as a person and kind of give them an understanding of who Gwen is. Because there's many layers, right? And we're going to get to all of those tonight.
Maybe not all.
We're going to start with, oh yes, we are. We're going to start with, where are you from? Okay. Who are you? Where did you grow up?
Okay.
All those things.
So I say I grew up in Midland, but my mom and dad relocated here when I was in the 3rd grade.
Where's here?
So North Richland Hills. Sorry.
Yeah. That's your hood.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like literally here, like in your neighborhood is where I grew up. But I still claim my oats in Midland, Texas, because it's country, not anymore. And it was small town, not anymore.
Yeah.
But that's always been my safe escape place.
I love that. I feel like I have that. I mean, I traveled to California every summer because that's where my dad's family are from. And
there's just some comfort.
Yeah.
There's an odd comfort there.
I agree. For sure.
And a lot of people were like, oh, you don't all ride horses there. Or there's not tumbleweeds blowing across all the time.
I'm not going to lie. I literally thought that was Midland. Until you just said, I'm like, in my mind, it's just dirt and oil.
No, it's just really fancy oil people.
Okay.
And
now I can get on board with that. That's hilarious.
It's a small little town that has nothing.
So you guys moved to North Richland Hills. And you have a very normal upbringing.
Yeah, I have. My mom and dad had been married for 35 years.
That's a huge achievement.
They've had their ups and downs, and they have not hid their ups and downs from me and my little sister. I have just one sibling, and we're 5 years apart. And yeah, I mean, it was normal. My mom and dad both worked, and my dad worked all day, every day to give a stranger the shirt off his back. And he's still that way. And everybody refers to him as Bubba.
Bubba. I never will forget the one he sent me his phone contact. He put his first name and then he put in quotes Bubba. And I was like, all right, I'm saving it as Bubba.
Because that's what he's known. Like, he's Bubba. He has 13 brothers and sisters. And
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. And every boy is named Jimmy. So they all have nicknames.
I'm sorry, what?
Most of them. I want to say most are all.
Wait, are they all from the same mom and dad?
No.
13?
Yes.
How did I not know? Okay.
So everyone had nicknames. All the boys had nicknames. So his was Bubba. So that's what.
Please tell me, was his dad's name Jimmy?
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. That's interesting. I've never heard of that before. I've heard of junior, senior, third trip, that kind of stuff.
No, they had different middle names.
Okay. So some differentiation. How the heck do you... Okay, yeah.
And I mean, some have different names. One has the name Arthur, but yeah, for the most part.
Jimmy and Arthur.
They're from a very small town outside of Houston, and redneck as redneck can come. But
I love it.
Again, I love those roots. That's my family. I'm not going to decipher from them.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. So you went to... Where did you go to high school?
I went to Richland High School.
Richland High School.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we want to give them backstory, but your story today, where we're at today,
Okay.
is, I don't want to like give anything away, but I want people to understand kind of how we got here.
Okay.
So you are 13 years old
Mm-hmm.
and you meet a young man
Yep.
by the name of Wesley.
Yep. Oh, Wesley.
Oh, Wesley. With his pink cheeks and very pale skin.
Oh, very.
So you guys meet at 13.
So we meet at 13, and he had mutual friends. I had mutual friends. I mean, we're in middle school, but we think we're on top of the world.
Oh.
And we are it. Like, no one can touch us.
Yeah.
And so we started dating. And then I remember we were going into, so that's 8th grade.
Okay.
We're going into 9th grade, so going into high school.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my friends at the time told me, she's like, we're going to high school. There's going to be other boys. Like,
senior boys.
yeah. Like, no, you don't want to have a boyfriend. Like, what are you thinking? So I ended it.
At 14.
At 14.
Yeah.
You know, I thought I was like really playing the field and doing legit big girl things.
That's hilarious.
And going into that summer of 9th grade, still hanging out with the same people. And Wes was a part of that group. And so we were still hanging out, still talking, everything like that. And he was in the marching band.
That literally does not surprise me.
And so he had a new clique of friends. And there was a girl in that clique of friends that guess he started, you know, liking and talking. So he was going to invite her or ask her to our freshman year homecoming dance. And
you were like, yeah, I'm not going to do anything to say about it.
I did not like that. And so one of our mutual friends, who I still love to this day, pulled Wes aside and was like, hey, Gwen's not happy about this. Don't ask her. You need to ask Gwen. Like, don't ask this other girl.
Yeah.
So Wes was clueless. And
also not surprising.
Yep. And so he was like, well, I heard you wanted to go with me. Do you want to go to homecoming together? And I was like, of course I do.
What a bold way to ask. Oh my gosh, I love it.
So we started dating again our freshman year in high school and together ever since.
And then how old were you when you got married?
So we joked that we graduated, like we walked the stage for graduation. And at the end where, you know, you like stand with your diploma, we also stood and said, I do. It was 2 months after it, but
you got married 2 months after you graduated high school.
Yep. And I got engaged like maybe a week after we graduated because I refused.
Well, hello, shotgun wedding.
I refused to plan anything. Like we knew leading up that we were going to get married.
Yeah.
And it was actually our senior year and we were talking about it. We knew that this is what we wanted. This is what path we felt called to. And we were walking the mall because what do you do whenever
when
you're a teenager?
Yeah.
And so we're walking the mall and there was a jewelry store that was closing down. And I remember it was Christmas time. And I told him, like, I looked him straight in the eyes, just like I always did with anything that I ever wanted. I was like, here's a jewelry store. And I want a nice ring. So if you're going to get it, now's your chance because they're closing.
Clear out sale. Capitalize on them discounts.
I mean, hey.
Because when you're 18, you have like all of $200 to your name. Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that's when he bought my ring. And he held on to it the entire time. And I remember he actually wanted to take me out to dinner right after graduation. And I'm pretty sure that's when he was going to ask me to marry him. And I had family in town. I wanted to hang out with my family.
I got plans. My Midland royal people are here to spoil me. That's hilarious.
So, he kept asking me, like, let's go to dinner. Let's go do this. And then finally, ironically, the same friend that told him to ask me to our freshman homecoming dance was the same friend that told me, like, Gwen, you need to say yes to going out with him this night because something's going to happen. And so I knew. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but then after her telling me that, I was like, oh, it's happening tonight.
Yeah, let's go get her nails done.
Exactly.
Right. That's so funny. How was it received that you wanted to get married right out of high school?
Our immediate family took it pretty well because they knew us. They watched us grow together and they watched our relationship. There were people that were distant from us that I know were like, oh, she's pregnant.
Oh, everyone, I'm sure.
So like I made sure And my wedding dress was like skin tight.
You're like, look at this. Ain't no bump in
There's
sight.
no bump. There's nothing. But I mean, for the most part, really, a lot of people supported it because they knew us. They saw us. And like, there was no doubt that this is what we were called to do.
Yeah.
And this was part of our story. And I'm grateful that we had that as part of our story.
I am too. I'm so grateful for that. So I want to tell you, like, my first memory of meeting you guys, it was like, y'all were just best friends.
Yeah.
Like, there was so much, like, natural chemistry between you guys that it was just evident that, like, y'all grew up together.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you really grew up together.
We really did.
And I was so impressed because at the time we were like young and broke, and you guys were like established and had this beautiful house in Bedford with this amazing backyard that Wes had like handcrafted. And I was like, who is this fool? Like, he was so talented at all these things, and I was just blown away. But that's like my first memory is y'all's like beautiful Bedford house, and I was obsessed with it. But also, okay, wait, we'll skip to that. Okay, so you guys get married out of high school, right? And then you like start doing married people life at 18?
Yeah. So
That's
here we
wild.
are. We literally went when most people are going like into the dorm,
right?
You know, like having fun.
Yeah.
I mean, we were.
I have a whole wife.
Yeah, we were in the honeymoon phase a little bit, but more like a total shock. Like I had never lived on my own.
Yeah.
And here we are living on our own, married.
Oh my gosh.
When all of our friends are going off to college. I mean, Wes went off to college, and I mean, Arlington, no, we're crazy. But
y'all like moved out of your parents' house, got an apartment. In Arlington? Or?
Yeah. So we actually, funny enough, we lived in an apartment on the same row as like Greek row. So I would get so irritated because all the frat
because you're a matronly 18-year-old and all your peers are out getting drunk down the street.
What would irritate me is like I would walk out and there'd be vomit right outside my door, and it's just like I'm just like
welcome to college.
Like,
yeah.
But here I am thinking like I'm a married woman. Like
how dare they?
Exactly.
Be 19 and throwing up in their yard.
They're living their college life.
That's hilarious.
I was not. Yeah, but I was on a college campus.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I guess. Like, obviously, I know that you guys got married young, but, like, the logistics of that are just so crazy to me because I so freshly remember, like, moving into dorms and, like, those kind of things. And then y'all were just, like, married, like, fully married. So you guys live in Arlington. Wes goes to school. What did he get his degree for?
Graphic design marketing.
Okay, yeah. And he, like, totally stuck with that.
Oh, yeah. The plan was for him to go to school, and then if I wanted to go, then I'd go after him. So he got through his degree, everything in 3 years.
Did you work while he was in school?
Yes.
So like you
I was
held it down. You were the sugar mama. Okay, so you were like, okay, I love that. So you worked, he went to school.
Yep.
How old were you guys when you had Wyatt?
7 years ago. So 25.
Okay.
So we waited a while.
That's very impressive.
I mean, we knew that we wanted to be established, and his upbringing, he wanted to make sure that when he started to have a family that we were established, that he wasn't
depending on anyone for
exactly. And because of his upbringing, that is why he was the man that he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And man, there's so many things that you go through in your first year of marriage, like I love that. I feel like he always had such clear vision for what y'all were supposed to be doing.
Oh, yeah. And it was like, it'd either be him or it'd be me that had a vision, and we would support the other person and we would hear the other person out. Yeah. It wasn't like, this is what I want. This is what's going to happen.
Right.
It was, this is what I want for us. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
Are you going to want hand in hand? Or
yes, I agree. I would say that you guys are, I would say that y'all function so well as a unit. Like every decision I saw you make, like, don't get it twisted, Wes spoiled the crap out of you.
This is true.
But now it makes more sense. You held it down for him while he was in school getting his degree. He owed you. So that's, but I just remember so clearly, like, I always respected that you really did, like, consider him in all your decisions and vice versa.
Oh, 100%.
100%. So, okay, so you guys get married really young. You wait a while to have a kid.
Yes.
You have Wyatt.
Oh, sweet Wyatt.
What was that like?
So I did have a miscarriage before Wyatt.
Oh, I didn't know there was one before Wyatt. I thought it was.
Yes.
Okay.
And so we struggled with infertility, and none of the doctors could tell me why we were struggling with infertility. Ran all the tests, everything like that. And just out of nowhere, got pregnant with Wyatt. And
I didn't know that you struggled with infertility before you had it.
I had no, still to this day, no answer why. And
God's time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Motherhood was and is still something that I feel that I'm 100% called for.
I agree.
And so I was waiting for the moment for us to start a family. And I was born for that
to be amount.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. So you have Wyatt. You guys are living in the Bedford house at this point. The beautiful Bedford house.
I miss that backyard.
That was the best house. I love that.
The layout wasn't the best.
No, but the backyard was amazing.
The backyard was the best.
But you guys since I've known you, y'all have lived in 3 different houses, and I feel like you've made each of them so beautiful. So beautiful. So you guys have Wyatt. You get pregnant with sassy little sis, my freaking girl. I literally just took this child to get press-on nails at Target, and
she asked for Aunt J.
Dead in the eyes. I was like, Aunt J, can I get 2? I was like, girl, get 5. Get whatever you want.
Because she knows how to work you.
Because I cannot tell you no. But so you guys get pregnant with Riley, and did y'all move to Keller before you got pregnant with her?
No. So I got pregnant with Riley. So we're in the Bedford house, and Wes, because now we have 2 kids, or 1 kid and 1 on the way, he wanted a different job to bring in more money financially for us. Because, here we are statistically, you have 2 kids, you need to be making more money, you have a bigger house, the list goes on. So we fell under that, and he got a new job, and he was making a lot more. So we're like, hey, well, let's go buy this amazing house. And it was a house of our dreams. But little did we know that house would be a complete night.
Yeah.
For us.
It was a bad move financially.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And it also took you away from, it took you further from your community.
Exactly.
And that was really difficult. And so.
And during all of that, I'm pregnant. He's in a new job where he's traveling more. Stress. And then right before we sold that house, COVID came. And
oh my God, I forgot about that.
It's but to look back at all of it, God's sovereign hand in all of it. And so we purchased the house, and Wes quit his job the day after we closed on the house.
God, I forgot about that.
Because he was so unhappy. And I was like, well, just quit. Mind you, here I am with a toddler, and I'm pregnant.
Oh my God, I forgot that he quit his job. That is insane.
So here we are in a larger house.
With a larger mortgage payment.
A lot larger. But
he was miserable. I wonder that.
100% miserable.
He was miserable with his job.
So we waited till we closed.
And he quit.
And he tried to start his own business.
We tried to start his own business.
Yeah, I remember that.
This is where Wes and I got really close, because we really were pounding the pavement.
You were
pounding the pavement. Homie was sitting behind a computer.
He was running the numbers, getting everything going behind the screen.
Yeah, I loved it though. I look back at that time, and I'm so thankful for it, because we were such good friends.
Y'all made a great team together.
Yeah, 100%. Because I could say exactly what I was thinking, and it didn't hurt his feelings, because he's a guy. And I function like that a lot. But also he was so creative, and he was such a hustler.
Oh, 100%.
Such a hustler.
If there was a way,
he made it happen. 100%. There was nothing that was going to stand in his way. And I feel the same way about stuff. And so we'd actually together been working at a med spa doing their marketing.
Yep.
And I was like, wait, we should be doing this for ourselves. What are we doing? And then he quit his job, and then we started that marketing thing. And then I think he realized quickly, it's going to take a lot longer to make this profitable. And we have a massive mortgage payment that we need to pay. I got to get another job.
Yep.
And then he started working for Hilton.
No. So he worked for Hilton. He left Hilton.
Worked for Michaels.
And then he worked for the company he was not happy for.
Okay.
For a short period of time. And then I told him that by the time I have Riley, you need another job.
Yeah.
Unless you're bringing in what needs to be brought in.
And we weren't.
And
we weren't. It was a startup. It was such a startup, and we had no clue what we were doing, but we were doing it. I think had we had more time,
Yes, more
And-
time
and
a
more
little
money.
bit more breathing room financially.
If it wasn't
would've
like, we're going to make our mortgage payment tomorrow, I'm like, I don't know what we're doing. Yeah, I think it would have worked.
And so again, like God's sovereign hand in it all. And he got the call from Michael's why I was in labor with Riley.
I know. I was
for the job.
Mm-hmm.
So he then started working for Michael's.
Yeah.
And we sold that house. We lived in that house less than a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sad to leave that house, but at the same time, it felt like such a relief to leave that house.
And the house that you're in now is like amazing.
It is
so wonderful.
A house that we definitely were called to. And every day I'm reminded of why God called us to that house.
Well, and just like the thing that I love about him the most is his humility to be like, I made a mistake and I'm going to fix it. Like, we're going to find a way out of it, you know?
Yeah.
But I think I'm so thankful for that time too, just because that I think brought y'all closer.
100%. It either could have brought us closer or separated us.
100%.
And separation was never on the table for us.
No. So then you move out of that house, you have Riley. By the way, I was in the room when Riley was born. And it was like my favorite freaking
You were like
memory.
the first one to see her.
Yeah, I was, because I'm pretty sure Wes had his eyes closed because I think he was going to pass out. But I was, at that time, Dylan and I were still doing photography, and I photographed her birth. And that is like such a freaking sweet. And I think also that's why Riley and I are so bonded, because I'm like, little girl.
She's your girl.
I watched you be born. Like,
I mean, she has mannerisms. I'm like, that's Jordyn.
I ripped off on
like, I don't know how.
The sass,
but that's not me.
was in the room, baby. It's not you. Yeah, right. No, but she's like my little kindred spirit. I love that child so much.
She's an inner, like she is your inner child, like my inner child, like 100%.
Yeah, and she calls the shots however she wants to. And
yes, she does.
She had Wes wrapped around her little finger.
And she knew that like from the very beginning.
Okay, so fast forward. So Riley enters the scene. Life is wonderful. You guys buy the house in North Richland Hills.
Yes.
Everything's going great. Wes is killing it in his career. You're a full-time stay-at-home mom, homeschooling.
Yes.
Doing all the things that, like,
life is thrown at me.
It was so picture perfect at that point.
Storybook.
Literally, storybook. And, like, storybook even to the point of, like, you guys have known each other since you were 13 and started dating and got married out of high school. You have this amazing life together. Like, you jump through hurdles together, all these things, and then you land in this, like, picturesque home with these picturesque kids and this life. And then the absolute worst possible thing happened. Yeah.
So Riley turned 3. Yeah. So it was her 3rd birthday. And it was shortly after her birthday party. So her birthday's in August. And it was shortly after her birthday party, he got sick. And it was just for a weekend. And when he got sick, he got like sick. And we just assumed it was COVID. And didn't get him to, like, that was just our mentality. But we thought he would be fine. And then Labor Day weekend came and we went to the beach and he still was not any better. And he's like struggling to just be there with us at the beach because he wasn't feeling well. So we get home and I'm like, you need to go to the doctor. This is not okay.
Right. It's not normal.
Exactly. So he went to just one of like the little clinics and they're like, oh, you have walking pneumonia. Here's this, take this inhaler, you'll be fine. Well, it wasn't helping. And so I was like, you need to go get a second opinion. Second opinion, they do an x-ray, a chest x-ray, and they call us and tell us that there's a 14 centimeter mass. They couldn't tell us what it was, obviously, from the x-ray, and that he needs to get a CT scan and take it from there.
And what month was that? October?
No, so September.
September.
So in September is when everything really like ramped up. And so we got the CT scan. He was referred to, where is he referred to? He was referred to a few doctors.
Yeah.
Multiple doctors, actually. And we were confused and puzzled into why he was being refused to a cancer doctor, why he was referred to like all of these doctors when it's just a mass. That's all it is. It's nothing. What's happening? So he got the biopsy in October, in the beginning of October. And it was the week after that we found out that it was cancer.
What type of cancer?
It was a germ cell tumor, which is usually found in children and is very treatable, very curable, and never close to the size that he had.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, the prognosis is good. Like, it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And his doctor was very aggressive with the treatment. And we found out on, I want to say maybe a Wednesday, that he had cancer. And he wanted him to come in the next day for inpatient chemo for a week.
Yeah.
So we went from within a month span of, oh, it's just a cough.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh, there's a 14 centimeter tumor. Oh, it's cancer.
Yeah. Oh, and hey, by the way, now you're going to be admitted to the hospital for 5 days a week for how many weeks?
It was 4 rounds of chemo.
So a full week.
Exactly. A full week of chemo. Like,
there's dogs in the background, y'all. I'm sorry. Okay. So a full week. So he goes in the next day.
Correct. For inpatient chemo, and was going to be gone for at least a week from our family.
And then that turned into like 4
round. Like, he would go in 4 times.
And stay for 7 days each time.
Yeah.
I remember so vividly because I'm a cancer survivor. And so people automatically call me and they're like, what do you think?
Yeah.
And I was like relieved to hear it was germ cell. Honestly, I was like, okay, this is curable. Like from what I know from like, you know, being in the cancer world and like being around people that have had cancer, like this is going to be like, it's going to be intense and then it's going to be fine.
And it was very intense chemo that they gave him. Yeah. And I mean, I remember like, so my mom had breast cancer in high school. Yeah. And so I've been around it a little bit. But I mean, the dosage they were giving him, the side effects that he was having, it was intense.
Yeah. And not to mention just the disruption of your day-to-day life, because he was, first of all, the breadwinner.
Yeah.
Right. The sole breadwinner, like the sole provider for the home. Second of all, you go from having him working at home. Mm-hmm. You guys were around each other all the time. All the time. Your
like
kids
as a family unit, we homeschooled. Like we were together all the time.
And then he goes into this intense chemo. And that, I was more worried for you at that point because I was just like, this is going to be so difficult on her mental state of not having him there. Because truth be told, you were extremely dependent on him and he was extremely dependent on you. And it's a beautiful thing. Like that's what God created marriage.
He got my gas for me.
Yes, like I was you were a passenger princess to a T. Like you were cared for. Oh, yeah. And I love that because he did it with so much joy and it was so effortless for him to literally just cater to you. Such a beautiful thing. But you also were such a hands-on mom. You cooked every meal. I've never seen someone budget or cook as well as you. Like I still am like, Gwen, how do you keep coming up with these recipes? I'm so sick of cooking. Like everyone eat a hot dog. But like you had freezer meal and Aldi bags and like all the things, you had it all down pat. And so y'all's balance was so in sync that it was so scary to me when they were like, hey, he's going to be in chemo for a long like duration and he's going to be away from the home. Yeah. That's what worried me initially. And then, so you guys go through the chemotherapy and then what happens?
So we went through chemotherapy and I remember he was towards the end of it and everyone was like, well, all the doctors were like, it's going great. Everything's going great. Like his side effects were minimal. And from scans they were doing, they could tell that the tumor was shrinking. And so after the last and final round, which was in January of 2023, they did a scan and it had shrunk just halfway. So it was 7 centimeters now versus 14
But it was viable for surgery at that point.
Correct.
Okay.
So he had surgery on Valentine's Day of last year. And I remember just being relieved, and we joked that, you know, most girls get diamonds for Valentine's Day. Well, I was getting...
You got a tumor removed from your husband's body.
What
a morbid way to make light of that. But it's true. You have to laugh.
Oh, yeah. I mean, now, exactly. So he is a rock star through surgery, and he's standing up less than 12 hours after a very intense surgery and is discharged. We're told everything is great. They got everything.
Clean margins. It was perfect.
Yeah, everything was perfect. And they wanted to send the tumor for pathology just to make sure that everything was textbook and everything.
Yeah.
And they found that there were some cancer cells like on the outside lining of the tumor. So they wanted him to, so now we're after doctor's appointments, which obviously take a while to get in. We are at the end of March and they do scans and they find now 2 new tumors that were about 2 centimeters, and not what we thought we would hear. We thought we would hear, it's gone, you're great, you're in remission, you need to come to us every 6 months, do blood work, do the whole shebang, and then, go to every year.
I have a sick feeling in my stomach because I remember so clearly, I think that appointment was on a Monday or a Tuesday.
It probably was a Tuesday because I tried to make them when the kids were at preschool.
And I was sitting in church on Sunday, 2 days before y'all went to that appointment. And I got this overwhelming, I had to text Wes. In that moment, immediately then I had to text him. And it was the verse, for the joy set before him, Christ endured the cross.
Yep.
And I just felt so overwhelmed that I needed to text Wes that.
I remember him telling me about that text.
And I had no clue.
Yep. But little did we know.
Yeah, I had no clue. And so I sent that text, and then you guys found out, I think, Tuesday. And now I look back and I'm like, the Lord knew. The whole time he knew what was coming, and I didn't know, and you didn't know, and none of us knew. And
he was preparing us. There's no doubt, looking back at it, there are things he was preparing us for. Like you said, I was never alone.
No.
And so when he was in the hospital getting chemo, those weeks were hard for me.
Yeah.
But it showed me I can do this.
You can.
And I'd been doing it.
Yeah. So end of March, he has
2 additional tumors now. 2 new tumors.
In the lung?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
in the same
not in the lung. It was on the outside
of the lung.
lining of the lung. And since they'd already given him a very aggressive chemotherapy, they were like, your body is not going to respond to anything else other than if we do a bone marrow transplant. Yes. And as soon as we heard those words, we knew we weren't going to do that. His mom had a bone marrow transplant, and she got MRSA and passed away from MRSA. So as soon as we heard that, we were like, this is not an option for us right now. There has to be other options. So we started looking more into other stuff, and people within our community started coming to us, people who are near and dear to us. Were coming to us look, I've done this. This is what I've done.
Alternate treatments.
Yes.
I remember so clearly he texted me and was like, what do you think I should do? And I was like, throw anything at it that you possibly can. Do the chemo, do the alternate surgery, do anything, Wes. You do anything. Because he was like, if it was you, what would you do? Yeah. And I was like, this is what I would do. I would do literally anything that I could to beat it.
So that's what he did. And in true Wes fashion, he did not, he didn't just do it. He went big.
Oh my God.
He fasted for 21 days.
Ashley Oviedo tells a story every time we talk about Wes. She tells the story of how y'all had them over for dinner, and he was on a water fast. Yep. He was outside grilling food for their family while y'all are all eating, and he's over there drinking water. Because he was so committed to doing anything that he could to make his body heal.
He was 100% committed to doing anything that he could. And that's where it's at the end of the day, I know that he tried his absolute hardest.
Yeah, he did.
And he did everything in his power. We did everything. We fought until it was made very clear that the fight
was done. Yeah. So you guys were into April at this point.
Correct.
And you guys find the treatment center in Arizona.
Yes. So probably middle of April is when he found a treatment center in Arizona that is very reputable. They've been treating cancer holistically for
with high doses of vitamin C.
Correct.
And they attacked it really aggressively.
And so we were supposed to fly out the beginning of May. Me and him were supposed to fly out to have the consultation and get a treatment plan, come back, see if that's where we felt called to go. And that week he had a huge scare, and he completely lost consciousness. He didn't know who I was. He didn't know who one of our dear friends who was with him at the time, didn't know who she was, didn't know who the kids were, whole thing. And slowly started coming to. And during this time, he's also starting to retain water. So he was super swollen and super uncomfortable. And he has a huge mass on his lungs. And so
he can't breathe.
sleep. He can't breathe. He was just very, very uncomfortable. But yet nobody would, like, he didn't let that stop him. We still went to church. We still saw our people. Like, we still did all of those things.
He was building our website for our real estate company at this point. Y'all had also, let's not forget, you had bought your first investment property.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
During that, turned it into an Airbnb. Like, the man was literally relentless. Like, he was like, I'm going to beat this, and I'm going to do all these other things that I've committed to, and I'm going to do them with excellence.
Exactly.
Like, he put a
failure wasn't an option
into your Airbnb while he's like literally having cancer or having tumor. I'm like,
he can't breathe yet. Here,
but he's
doing
out there
yard work,
sure that this house is going to
not
be
just yard work, like insane yard work, putting a whole rental house together.
Yeah, but
and working full time.
Yet again, that just is a testimony of the character of that man.
Yeah.
Like, truly the character of that man. So you guys get the scare. I remember so clearly, I was in Jenna's backyard and she was like, something's wrong. And I was like, go. Like, they need to go to the hospital now. Like, I was freaking out. You were calling me. Yeah. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And I was like, please take him to the hospital. And you're like, we're going. Calm down. Like, I was panicking. You were so collected.
Oh, so we actually didn't go to the hospital.
No, I know. But y'all like left for Arizona right after that, right?
So we were supposed to fly out. And I felt I did not want to fly. And so we made the decision. And one day I packed up our entire life. Yeah. Our entire family for what we thought was going to be a 3-month stay in Arizona.
I remember so clearly.
And drove out there in one day, like, to make it to his appointment because we couldn't reschedule the appointment and we didn't want to push it off any longer. Yeah. So we get to Arizona on a Friday and his appointment was a few hours after we got to Arizona. Like, there was no break. And the doctors were very optimistic, but they were very concerned with the sound on his lungs and his breathing. And they told us, that we believe it's fluid on the lungs, which he actually had while he was in the hospital for one of his chemo treatments. Yeah. So to us, that wasn't anything new. And so we tried a few things to do at home. And come Monday, he wasn't getting any better. He could barely sit. He was exhausted. He's coughing. I mean, his body was depleted. Yeah. And you could see it in every which way. So we take him up to the hospital and we think that they're just going to treat him for fluid on his lungs and he'll be back in a few days.
Because at this point, the treatment center had said, this is out of our hands. You guys can go to the hospital.
Yes. Yeah. And not the cancer was out of hand, but for what they could cure, the side effects. Just because, they weren't doing scans on him at the homeopathic facility. They were just listening and they're like, you need to go to the hospital, have them do the scans. Let's find out what is going on. Yeah. So they did. And actually the hospital could not get a proper scan because they needed him to lay down. And he could not lay down.
Yeah, he would have suffocated.
He couldn't breathe. Yeah. So they told us that worst case scenario, he's going to have to be intubated for the scan. And I remember to intubate him and his numbers, they had to put him in ICU. And it was an ICU doctor that we hadn't been talking to because now it's switched from day shift to night shift. And the night shift doctor we did not like him. Yeah. He kept telling me that if they intubate him, that this could be it. I'm like, you don't know my husband. This is not
you
don't
know what. Yeah.
No. And so the game plan was Tuesday morning when the day shift doctor got back in, we would talk with him and figure out where to go. So they kept him in ICU that night and his numbers crashed and they had to intubate him. And I was at home with the kids. And I vividly remember waking up and being so out of it because I hadn't slept in who knows how long.
Months.
And I remember them telling me they had to intubate Wes and that I needed to get up there. And I remember waking up and turning next to me to be like, I need to get to the hospital. But I had nobody to tell, because he's always been there. So we decide, and at this time, Wes's grandma is there in Arizona with us. As soon as we found out that he had to go to the hospital, we couldn't be there alone in Arizona. So she flew out there.
Because you had the kids with you.
Yeah, we had the kids with us. So she flew out there on the first flight that she could get and dropped everything to come to help us. So she's there with me in the middle of the night when we get the call. And I was in no state to drive. I haven't slept in days. It's the middle of the night. I just get a call that my husband's been intubated. And it was not even maybe an hour after that, Wyatt comes into my room and he couldn't sleep. And so me and him just laid there and I played worship music and I just held him and prayed and he fell asleep. So Wes's grandma went up to the hospital because I couldn't bear to be there and see it. I needed just to be with the kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you needed a second to process.
Yeah. What's going on? What's happening? So she gets up there and she's letting me know like everything that's happening. She has been a saint to Wes's family, what she has walked through for them and held them through. And so I go up there. They actually tell her that I need to get up there. So me and her switch places. I bring the kids up to the hospital and she gets the kids. I go up there and they're telling me, this just does not look good. They were able to do the scan. It's completely gone from his heart all the way to the bottom, like completely taken over.
His entire diaphragm.
So, and it was just, I remember calling my uncle and because I had nobody in the hospital room with me to talk about this, to be with me.
Right.
And my uncle's always been there.
Yeah.
And so I remember he was on speaker. He had my aunt in the room and it was a hard call of what to do next and what questions do I ask. So at this point, my mom has now flown into Arizona and Tuesday we're just figuring out what's going on at this point. We don't know. My mom is in the process of getting to Arizona. She's already there and I'm back at the house and I hadn't ate in days. I'm trying to eat. And I remember having a cup of yogurt in my hand and one of my dear friends, Megan, she had called me and she said, the church is flying me out there to you. And she had walked alongside us this entire journey because she had a close connection with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember just dropping my yogurt and falling on the floor and just being so grateful that we had a community and a church that was standing here in Texas while we're in Arizona. Yeah. And so she flew out there. She got there late Tuesday night. And then my dad flew out there Wednesday. And Wednesday is when we were told that we need to start providing for comfortive care.
Yeah.
Which I was in denial. Me and Megan were calling all of his doctors Anderson. Here in Texas.
We were
like everybody.
Yeah, like, everyone was trying.
Everyone was doing what they could. But it just,
do you think that in your heart at that moment, like you knew what was coming and you were just like trying to,
even before that, when he was sick and we were here in Texas, I remember just feeling that this is going to happen. And I remember being like, nope, it's not going to happen. And we had brought up my miscarriage. So before I had the miscarriage, I had a dream that where God's holding a baby and telling me it's okay. And then I had the miscarriage. So I wanted to rebuke him telling me that, this isn't going to end in the way that I wanted it to end. So I didn't talk about it to many people, but God was preparing me. There's no doubt. The words he was placing on my heart, he was 100% getting us ready.
Yeah.
And so Wednesday we're told to plan for that. My dad is getting to Arizona. So I have my core, a few core people there with me to hold me. And Thursday, I will never forget. I get home from the hospital and I want to sit down on the couch with the kids and be with them. And I knew that the end was very, very near, but I had not told my parents that yet. And Megan, I hadn't told them at that time. And I'm laying there on the couch with the kids and I'm holding Riley. And I tell Riley, your mommy loves you. God loves you. Like I'm naming all these people and I leave Wes. So the kids knew Wes was sick. They didn't know that he had been intubated. They didn't know. We were always very clear what was happening. But I felt that for this, I need to be more guarded and careful. So I'm listing off all these people that love her. And I go, but you know, your daddy loves you the most, right? And she goes, I know. And my daddy's in heaven. He hadn't passed yet. So I remember giving her the biggest hug and looking at Megan and running into a room. And I couldn't breathe. Yeah. I couldn't function. I was having one of the worst panic attacks I've ever had. And because it was all coming very, very clear. So, Friday is the day that we knew. I felt at complete peace that there is no need to continue and draw this out. Yeah. We could fight, but it wasn't going to benefit.
And he didn't want that.
No.
He didn't want to suffer, and he didn't want to be on a ventilator for the rest of his life. He didn't want any of those things.
I mean, he was probably mad that he was on a ventilator for that long.
Oh, I can
looking back at And he fought that ventilator too. And that's the thing, is like the doctors were like, he should not. Like, he was responding to us. He was praising his hands in worship. Like, he was doing things that doctors were like, he should not be doing. Like, there's no reason why.
He should have been sedated. And
100%.
He was still
fighting.
Yeah.
And
so you guys get to the hospital Friday, and there were, I think, grief counselors there that were talking you through, like, okay, this is what's going to happen next. Yeah. If you decided to take him off the vent.
Correct. So they were preparing me. So my dad wanted the kids to come up there and see the kid. Yeah. Or my dad wanted the kids to come up there and see Wes. And I was very adamant, no, not going to happen. And he was like, we'll go get blankets, cover up all the machines, like, no, but they need to see him. And I'm like, no, I don't want them to remember their father in this state, because that is not their father. Yeah. And even my dad, like, shortly after, he's like, I'm very grateful that you said that and you fought that, and you made the right choice.
I was mad at you in that moment too. I'm not going to lie. I was like, let them in. But now I'm so thankful that you didn't. And I think that was just also wisdom from Jesus, because
100% that entire week, like, I mean, Jesus was literally walking alongside me,
making decisions on your behalf.
Because I have no clue how else I could have or would have made it.
So we're all home in Texas, getting this information as it comes through people that are there. Jenna and I are trying to book flights. Like, we're trying to get to you, and you were like, don't come. Like, don't come, because this is going to end soon. Like, I think you, at that point, you knew, like, this is the next step, and I need to do this.
Like, we had a friend that was supposed to fly out Friday night, and even knowing that, like, this was going to happen, she was like, I can still fly out and I can help you with the kids, like, whatever needs to happen. I'm like, no, stay in Texas.
You knew.
And the church had sent 2 other people male figures that Wes was very close with, I was very close with, and the kids were also close with. Yeah. And again, that was like God's loving hand in it all.
The people that needed to be there, and like, everybody that needed to be there was there. I firmly
100%. Yeah. And so Friday is when made the call, and they were preparing me that it could be a day, it could be a few hours, and they were telling me that it could be very gruesome, it could be very hard. And I told Mark, one of our good friends, that I'm not going to want to leave the bedside, but I'm going to need you to carry me out of this room. If it gets to a certain point, like, please carry me out of here. Thankfully he did not. Wes went very, very peacefully, and within just a few minutes. And it was just, I'm telling, like, those moments are moments that I will forget, but I don't want to forget, if that makes any sense.
No, like you have to put them in a spot on your brain. And I like hearing it from other people about, like, he literally went to Jesus worshiping.
Yeah. He 100% went to him raising his hands, and it's just like, to say that and to witness that, like, there's never a question of faith. There's never.
No. And that's been like it's been like the thing that's like kept me hopeful for y'all, and like really known that you were going to be okay was because of the legacy that Wes left. There was nothing else for us to do but simply to say, like, if Wes could go out that way, and if Wes could trust Jesus in that moment, like, far be it from me to stand in the way of that, you know? And, like, just watching how you've carried yourself and how you've carried your kids.
I mean, it's not, I don't feel that I've done anything crazy spectacular. And I tell people this all the time, it's their prayers that have sustained us. And the church has prayed over us some nights, and I didn't know that they were, but some of those nights were our best nights. And we were being covered in prayers in those moments. I didn't know that.
No.
But it's just to look back and see just the little things.
Yeah.
But
that's because of how incredible Wes was and how incredible y'all are, that, like, he really laid that foundation for your 100%. Family. And I'm so thankful that you were freaking 18 years old when you got married, and
we got to enjoy so much time together.
So much of your life
that most people don't get to.
No. And yeah, I remember, like, really wanting to be angry at the Lord when that happened, but, like, it was like Wes was in the back of my mind, like, don't you dare. I went out in the exact way that I was intending to. I went out on my terms and the way that I knew that I was created to. Like, the Bible talks about, like, from dust you were made, from dust you will return, and you will go out worshiping the Lord. And Wes literally physically did that. Like, they took him off that bed, and you guys were playing. What was the song that he was singing?
I'm not 100% positive.
I remember it, but it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember.
They played it at his service.
I know.
I remember Sweet Matt. I remember hitting him so hard and be like, write this song down. because I'm not in the moment. I'm not going to remember it.
Yeah.
And there were 2 songs that really spoke to Wes during that time. And I know that those are songs that have spoke to me over these last 9.5 months.
Yeah.
And it's just the littlest things that God has done for us and been with us. And it's insane to me. I mean, he passed away on a Friday. We flew out early Saturday morning. The 2 friends that flew in from the church, they were going to leave later that evening. And I'm like, no, I want to leave here now. It's happening. And again, like, by the grace of God, me and the kids were able to fly with them. So I didn't have to think about anything.
Yeah.
Like, I am there and that's it. Like, I was just there.
Yeah.
And my parents were able to drive everything back that we had packed up. Like, I didn't have to do anything because in that moment I could not do anything.
No, rightfully so.
And then the Bradleys, they had no clue that they'd be
housing you.
They'd be housing me for like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
They just thought they were picking me up from the airport and letting me stay there for the night.
But then going home, because I want to be careful to not downplay the grief.
Yeah.
Right. Those first couple of weeks were freaking awful.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so awful for you, so awful for the kids. Like, but also in the midst of it being so awful, there were so many people that showed up for you and so many things that, like, that Wes, like, it's almost like he, like, took care of it before he knew he had to take care of it. And, like, there were so many things that he did that put you guys in a better position that I look back and I'm so thankful for that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so honored to have had a front row seat and watched him do things that, because I think he knew. I think once he got sick, I think he knew. It was like, okay, now it's time for me to, like,
there are little things that it's like, oh, didn't know you did that. Well, now I know you did that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is probably why you did that.
It makes so much more sense.
But then there's also things where it's like, why did you not do this?
Right. Like, hello. Yeah. Oh, yeah. God, I remember
you
so clearly.
A lot of calls.
Because obviously I'm a realtor and I had told you guys that house, that Airbnb. And then
that Airbnb house.
So
Dylan was the first to know. Did we know that?
I didn't know that.
He was at the Airbnb house and we'd make the decision.
He was the first one to know that y'all were pulling him off the fence.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Or if I did, I forgot.
I remember. There's odd things that I remember during that time.
That were so clear.
And I remember telling Dylan, this Airbnb house is yours now. This is what's happening. Do whatever you need to do.
And he did.
And he did.
He did.
100%. Like, even if
everybody did. Like, the Crispins, like, there were so many people that, like, behind the
And
scenes
God was
that
putting
had
all
to.
of these people in our community
Mhm.
that have and continue to carry us.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that because I think it's really important. Like, there's going to be people that listen to this podcast that can empathize with loss and with grief, or they're in the thick of it right now. Like, what would you say to two parts? What would you say to someone who is faced with the decision of like, I'm going to have to be the one to make this call on my husband's behalf? Like, what would you say to encourage them?
To just have peace in the moment, to think what your spouse, what your loved one would want you to do to honor them. Not to think what you want or what those around you are saying.
Because in your heart of hearts, you knew what Wes wanted.
Yeah.
You knew in your core he didn't want to live like that.
No.
And he didn't want to be suffering. And so you made the most selfless decision that you could have ever made.
100%.
Yeah.
It was a hard decision, but an easy decision at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that part. And then what would you say to someone who is starting over?
It's hard. There's no way to sugarcoat it. But you can have joy and grief at the same time. And the person that you were before that person passed away, you're also saying goodbye to that person, as morbid as that sounds. But God has created you for that purpose. And don't underestimate yourself. And it's okay to smile. It's okay to have happy moments. One thing that I tell myself is I can love these moments. I can love those around me, and I can still have new love. Like that, because I lost him doesn't mean I can't have joy anymore, or I can't have happiness anymore. Like, yes, a very big part of me is gone now.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that our end is now as well.
Because you have to keep going.
Oh, 100%.
And he would want you to keep going.
100%.
He would be so pissed at you if you laid around and sulked a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, I'm sure he was like, yeah, have your grieving time. But like, he would have been like, you got to figure it out.
Get up.
Like, get up and dust yourself off.
Yeah.
The Lord is still good.
Yeah.
Which he would have said that. Like, it sounds so almost tone deaf to say it, but like, if you knew Wes, you knew that his faith was like everything.
Oh, yeah.
And the driving force behind his decision making and the way that he served your family and like the way that he loved his kids. Like, there was just, he trusted Jesus, and he trusted Jesus all the way up until the last moment.
100%.
And that, I think, has emboldened you to be on the other side of this.
Oh, yeah.
And to be able to be sitting in this chair and talking about it.
I mean, Wes shaped me into the woman that I am today. But he doesn't want me to end it here.
No.
To be like, woe is me. I'm a widow now.
No.
Like, I'm an only parent. I'm homeschooling. I'm now working. Like, no. Like, yes, it's all hard, but there's so much joy.
Yeah.
And one of the kids' favorite song right now is Joy Comes in the Morning. And it's like, that is so very true.
Yeah.
And so to hear them sing it, like, we sing worship music 24/7, and the truth is with us all the time.
I love that. And that's been your anchor is Jesus, and the only way that you've made it through it. And it's been encouraging to all of us to sit back and watch like curveball after curveball be thrown your way, and you like truly just figuring it out. But
I figured it out with my community.
Absolutely. And that's such an important thing that like, I want to drive home and then I'll get you out of the hot seat. But I don't think that you would have made it without the people that God had placed in your life. There's also being a part of a local church like that carried y'all.
It's scary to get plugged in. It's scary to put yourself out there. It's scary to become vulnerable. But man, it is so worth it. Regardless if you have hardships that you're going to face in life, we all go through something. And to have people walk alongside you and hold your hand and know that you have a Rolodex of people you can call
and
at any moment. Oh, I still do. And I'm going to continue.
Yes, and I hope you do. And that, I want you to hear me say, like, I'm so encouraged by you and by your persistence and by your growth and by the mom that you are.
Them the two reasons why I do anything.
And Wes would be so incredibly proud of you. And I know he is.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I love you a whole freaking lot. And I'm so thankful that you just shared that story.
It's a very small bit, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's so many more details that we could get into, and maybe we will one day. But yeah, so maybe we'll revisit this. What's next on the horizon, right? But
I can only wait and see.
I know. But for now, that was a lot. So let's give them a second to process.
It was a lot.
It was a lot. Okay, well, I love you.
Love you.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, subscribe, save, share this with someone that you feel like needs to hear Gwen's story. Bye.
Bye. Hey guys, thanks for listening to my mom's podcast, Let's Just Be Real. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, like, follow, rate, and review so you don't miss any of these honest and amazing stories. For all the behind-the-scenes content, go follow my mom at Jordyn Swingle on Instagram. And as always, let's just be real.